Alright, hey guys, it's Megan, and today we're going to take a look at the sh.monsterArts Burning Godzilla, Godzilla Jr, and the Super 7 Destoroyah. But before we do that, let's take a look at the big G himself, Burning Godzilla. Now let's go to the detail. The detailing on the figure is amazing. His eyes are basically well detailed. You can see the spirals in his eyes. The teeth are individually detailed. In case you don't know, I actually got this figure for my birthday 2 years ago. So yeah, pretty cool birthday figure, right? I do like the splotches on his body. They're well detailed. Same with the claws. The dorsal plates. His feet are well detailed. Now, the teeth are individually, well, the claws are well detailed. They're kind of like dinosaurish. For the paint job, I do like what they did with his paint job with the eyes. I know this is actually the 94 suit, but with translucent bulbs. The orange eyes kind of recreate his dying body. Well, they recreate his appearance well. Same with his body. It's actually painted orange. It's basically a translucent orange. I think it, yeah. In case you don't know, this is meant to be Godzilla's last appearance in the Heisei era. And he's meant to, this represents him dying. So yeah, he's dying from a nuclear meltdown. Same with his kneecaps. Well, mostly his upper knees. The dorsal plates are painted orange, particularly these right here. As for his black and white dorsal plates, I don't remember if this was part of the movie or not. I don't know if he had these in the movie or not. I think he did, but I could be wrong. It's been a hot minute since I've watched Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. The claws are painted like a tannish gray color. Now for the posability. The mouth can open. The arms can move. The mouth can open and close, I meant to say. The wrists, well, the hands can move. The legs can move. The tail can move, although sometimes it will pop. The tail will pop out, but it's not doing it now. Maybe because I haven't touched it in a while. So that's BG, Burning Godzilla. Now let's move on to the star of the show. Well, the secondary character, Godzilla Jr. Detailing is great. Kind of looks like a miniature Godzilla. Though, to be fair, that is what he is. He's technically Godzilla, little Godzilla, but mutated from the radiation. Hold on. The detailing, well, it's pretty much the same as Burning Godzilla, just smaller. I like how his dorsal plates are small, by the way. Paint job is pretty great. It's like a green, like a bright green. I don't know if you can tell, like an emerald green, based on the lighting. The claws are yellow, like a yellowish gray. Same with the toes. And the dorsal plates are gray, while the eyes are red. Posability. Mouth can open and close. Arms can move. Wrists can move, or hands can move. The knees can move. The tail can move. Fun fact, this is actually my first sh.monsterArts figure. Yay. Now for the main villain, Destoroyah. Come on, you big chunk. The detailing on this figure is nice. I do like his devilish appearance. His ears, or I think they're ears, I don't know. I mean, they are ears, but I don't know. The mandibles are well detailed. The mouth is. And you'll notice I only have him in his roaring head. I'll get into that in a little bit. These thorns right here, they're well detailed. Same with the hands. The chest. Fun fact, he was supposed to have a chest beam, but they scrapped it because they didn't want to drag the fight too long with him and Godzilla. The knees and the legs are detailed. The wings, both the primary and secondary wings, are detailed. Same with the tail. Now, the moment of truth. The paint job. Paint job is pretty good. Darn it. The mouth has a great paint job. I forgot to mention the teeth are well detailed. I do wish the teeth could have been painted correct. Well, not correctly, but perfectly. But this is only on the roaring head. The neutral head is decent too, but I do think the painting could have been better. Sorry about that. The paint job on the wings are like a reddish, like a red color, and I like that. The chest is like an orangey yellow. The claws are white. Same with the knees. Although there is some paint bleed on these right here. The knee thorns. The knee spikes. I mean. Same with the toes. And since the tail popped out, it's a reddish, like a crimson, like a maroon color. Let me see if I can put the tail back on. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. Posability. The head can move. The hands can rotate like this. Same with the arms and elbows. Although because of how big he is, they're not going to move 360 because the head gets in the way. The legs can move. The secondary wings can move, but this one popped out. Darn it. The head can move up and down. The head can move, though I kind of wish they went with what they... I kind of wish they did what they did with Mothra. with the Super 7 line. That giving her giving Destoroyah an open ball joint where you can open and close the mouth. But aside from that, this figure's alright. This figure's pretty good. Not perfect, but not good. Now, before we move on to size comparisons, let's pull out the accessories. Alright, now for the accessories. Let's start off with Burning Godzilla. He does have these hands right here. They're interchangeable. Basically, you just grab the base of his hand and you place him on the ball joint. I'm trying not to be too forceful because I don't want to break the figure, especially since I got this on I bought this on my birthday as a birthday gift. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I'll just leave it as is. There we go. He also comes with a tank. Well, I think 2 or 3, but one of the tanks ended up breaking, or one of the ball joints popped out. Now, for Godzilla Jr. Unfortunately, I mean, he did have accessories, but when I was moving, he did have helicopters as accessories, but when I was moving, I ended up forgetting where they went, and they're lost forever. Yay. I mean, not yay, but you get what I'm saying. As for Destoroyah, now this one I have mixed emotions about, but not in the way you think. I'll get into that in a little bit. Let's start off with these aggregate Destoroyahs first. Yeah, I do think they could have been posable, but they're definitely not the worst. They're all right, I guess. There are actually 3 of them, if you can't tell. Sorry about the lighting, by the way. He also has hold on. He also has interchangeable hands. Which you can... There we go. They are, surprisingly, they actually pretty good. They're pretty easy to put on. Now my least favorite accessory, the interchangeable heads. You're gonna you're probably thinking yeah, here's the fun part. Well, not really the fun part. The most difficult part, depending on how you do it. But based on what I do, I just wiggle. I just turn the head upside down, then wiggle it. And sometimes it will go in there. Sometimes the head will pop to the socket. If I can get it to open. Sometimes it will go on. Hold on. Okay, so I was able to put the neutral head back on. Well, not back on, but on the figure. And it's my least favorite part of the... It's my least favorite accessory because it was pain. It was literally a pain to do that. To interchange the heads. Not because of the fact that it's difficult. What made it painful is this figure is really sharp based on these right here, these thorns right here, and the horn katana. I recommend you be careful interchanging the heads because you may end up hurting yourself by accident. You may end up poking yourself with this right here. And I do not recommend a child to play with this figure, especially for that specific reason. And that's exactly why I wish Super 7 would create a ball joint for figures that so they can open and close their mouths. So overall, Destoroyah's accessories are mixed. The aggregate Destoroyahs I think could have been better if they were posable. The interchangeable hands I don't mind, but the interchangeable heads, completely different story. Now, before I end this review, let's go to size comparisons. First off, Godzilla, Burning Godzilla, and Godzilla Jr. Let's see if I can. Let me back up a little bit. Let me push Destoroyah out of the way. Let me move Destoroyah out the way, like, quick. There we go. Here's Godzilla and Jr. This is actually a pretty good size up, to be honest. Junior was a little bit, it's a lot shorter than Godzilla in the movie, so this is actually a pretty good size comparison. Now for Godzilla and Destoroyah and Junior. Yeah, this works. Destoroyah is a lot bigger than both. Is a lot bigger than Junior, so this size comparison would make sense, especially when Destoroyah grabs Godzilla Jr. Now, for the main enemies, for the enemies of the show. Well, movie to be exact. Godzilla and Destoroyah. Some people say this isn't the best size comparison, but you have to keep in mind Destoroyah is bigger than Godzilla in the movie, so I kind of like this. I kind of like it. I think these two go together perfectly fine. That's just me, though. Now, one of my overall thoughts on these figures, if I had to give them a score, I would give Burning Godzilla a 10 out of 10. Darn it. Hold on. Burning Godzilla gets a 10 out of 10. If I can stand him up straight. There we go. Hold on. Okay, so Burning Godzilla gets a 10 out of 10. Godzilla Jr. gets a 10 out of 10. Destoroyah gets an 7.5 out of 10. Because of the sometimes the paint job. Not necessarily because of the paint job, but I do think the teeth could have been better. Along with his accessories, specifically the aggregate Destoroyahs and the interchangeable heads. But other than that, he's actually a pretty good figure. I recommend you getting Burning Godzilla, these three figures, I recommend you getting Burning Godzilla if you're a huge fan of the 1995 design. If you're a Godzilla Jr. Junior, if you're a huge Godzilla Jr. fan. And Destoroyah, if you are a Destoroyah fan or you want an affordable Destoroyah figure. So yeah, that being said, have a wonderful day. In the meantime, I'm out.